Eric, we stood together on stage actually in Atlanta discussing Germany as a business destination. What surprised you most during these conversations?
It was really fascinating to hear how well they still perceive Germany. Reliability, efficiency, it's always Germany and efficient. Data centers are really very much pushing into the market. We already are Continental Europe's strongest hub for data centers. So we're seeing investments from all the big companies all coming into the Frankfurt region. And that's not only in the millions, in some cases it's billions.
Can you name also some companies from different areas, concrete cases maybe?
There's quite a few companies. One would be Texas Instruments, Vulcan Energy, BYD.
If I was a startup from abroad, why should I come to Germany?
It's a market that is really business oriented, talent wise and customer and client base wise. For me, if I wanted to do business in Germany, I'd go to a place where...
Yes, hello and welcome to a new Courage Skyline Talk. Today we will talk about business opportunities in Germany. Germany within Europe is often described as a sick man of Europe. But is that really how international investors and business leaders see it? Just a few weeks ago, Eric Menges, CEO and President of FrankfurtRheinMain, and I traveled to Atlanta and Charlotte as part of a business delegation of the Frankfurt Chamber of Commerce. We met with business leaders, investors, and companies from across the United States. And what we heard there was different from what many of today's headlines in Germany describe. So today we are asking one simple question in our discussion here. Is the world maybe more optimistic about Germany than Germans themselves? My guest today is Eric Menges, CEO and President of FrankfurtRheinMain, the international investment promotion agency for the Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region. Its mission is to attract international investment, support foreign companies entering the German market, and strengthen the international competitiveness of Europe's leading business region. Eric, welcome. Great to see you again.
Good to see you too. How are things?
Oh, pretty well. And with you, I see it must be much cooler in Germany now because you're wearing your coat or you have air conditioning.
I'm lucky enough to have air conditioning. This said, today's temperatures are a little bit lower than they were over the weekend. I'm not cold, but it feels very comfortable now wearing a jacket, whereas I probably would have turned up in a t-shirt on the last couple of days, which were well in the 40s in Germany.
Yeah, it was incredible, really. And Eric, who's this gentleman or lady next to you there?
That gentleman is, well, we don't know exactly who he is or if he has a name, but he is a Celtic prince. He was discovered in 1994. It took 2 years to dig him out of the ground, and this is obviously a replica because I work in an office, not a museum, but the original is placed in the museum in the so-called Wetterau County. There's an area in the Wetterau that's called the Glauberg. That's where the statue, the original, was discovered, and the original is actually somewhere around 2,400 years old, which is absolutely incredible. Can you imagine 2,400 years ago? So this gentleman, the statue was put into the ground 2,400 years ago, was only discovered in the late 90s, and is now a symbol of the long history of Frankfurt and the Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region dating back thousands of years.
Okay. The Wetterau, for those people who don't know Germany that well, is very close to Frankfurt and this area.
Absolutely. So I obviously, in my role, I represent the city of Frankfurt, but also the greater Frankfurt metropolitan region. Ballmark, roughly half an hour around Frankfurt Airport, is the region that I cover.
Wow. Yeah, and imagine USA is celebrating 250 years ago, right? And that was 2,400 years ago. Let's think about it.
Sometimes it's incredible, and I also have these not just know that there was life or there was a culture all that long ago, but you actually have things from that time that you can hold on to, you can touch and feel that have made it into our age. And I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, really fascinating. Eric, you and I, we've been in the United States not too long ago, end of
Yes.
April, beginning of May. It was fascinating, inspiring time. And we stood together on stage actually in Atlanta discussing Germany as a business destination. What surprised you most during these conversations?
Well, I mean, I do these presentations on a regular basis, so it takes a lot to really surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, overall, the impression that we got, and especially during the discussions we had after our presentations with the many individuals in the room, it was really fascinating to hear how well they still perceive Germany. I mean, Germany is still a symbol for reliability. More often than not, people mention the word efficiency, which is naturally sort of always in combination when they talk about Germany. It's always Germany and efficient. So those sort of traditional viewpoints have not really changed. Where they have changed is particular in the so-called expat community. So the Germans living in the United States, reading through German media about what's happening back in Germany, and by that often sort of being I wouldn't call them negative ambassadors, but people, you know, talking not always positively about Germany and largely addressing the many issues that no doubt we are facing.
Mm. Okay, but I had a similar perception like you, because made in Germany is still such a strong quality, how do you say, proof of quality seemed to me. I mean, I was even asked there, Eric, why we write and talk so badly about Germany. In their opinion, like all the products also exported to the United States right now, they said 75% of those products actually they can pass on the tax, the Zoll, help me. What is again the word Zoll?
Tariffs.
Yeah, the tariffs, because these products are still so exclusive. There's not really a competition. I mean, how strong can a quality of a country, the products be?
No, absolutely. But I would like to add that I never talk badly about Germany when I'm outside of Germany, and I never do that. And I always sort of point towards the positive factors, which comes as part of my role. That's my job.
Sure.
But I fully agree. And I mean, even if you look, well, if you watch any of the recent movies, whenever there's a successful person in a movie, more often than not, he drives a German car.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a classic. I mean, it's and 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 that is still part of that image that we have. And you are probably right. I mean, the Mercedes and the BMWs of this world probably wouldn't like me to say that, but I think for them it's much easier to pass on higher prices through higher tariffs than it probably is for many others that rely largely on price rather than quality and an image of high quality.
Mm. Well, interesting you said that. We saw Yellowstone yesterday, and which car was shown? A Mercedes.
Yes,
So it's amazing, yeah.
that's right.
And so, Eric, what is it? It seems, I mean, we Germans are known for the fact that sometimes we see things more negative. We're very critical. So maybe part is also this, where of course we have to be realistic. Some things I can assume can be improved in Germany. And then we come to the second question. We spoke exactly a year ago, and back then we talked mainly about bureaucracy, energy costs, labor shortages, and if you compare today with back then, has anything fundamentally changed?
Well, fundamentally, probably not. However, it seems like we are now closer to some reforms in Germany. I think we're moving closer to that. I think, on the other hand, there's probably a little bit of ernüchterung, sobriety in terms of the proposed investments in infrastructure and other areas via the extra government debt. That, to my knowledge and to our understanding, has not really transpired into really great new business opportunities. But there are other factors. There are changes in banking regulations, which we are following very closely, which could mean that foreign banks would need to have stronger engagement within the EU. And within the EU, we believe that Frankfurt is the main financial hub, so that might be additional opportunities for us as a financial center. Also, the federal government is looking at a reform of the pension system. If that is coming, that will provide many areas of opportunities in the financial sector, offering products to the consumer, where at the moment the pension system is pay as you go, and the money is not allowed to be invested in shares and in other forms of investment. If that changes, I think we will see strengthening. We will see strengthening of the financial center of Frankfurt. So constant change, and I think moving closer to some of the reforms that I've mentioned before. There's supposed to be a tax reform before the summer break. We'll see what that ends up being. But certainly the reform of the pension system is something that the financial services are really keen on understanding what that will mean for them.
Okay. I mean, American investments into Germany, I just saw a study by Ernst & Young and also KfW, remains remarkably resilient, I read, if that is correct. You're the expert. So why do American companies continue to invest here despite the situation, which is still difficult?
Yeah. Well, I think to be fair, to be completely honest, there's not a lot of investment in the manufacturing, real industrial sector at the moment.
Okay.
High energy cost, high labor cost. I mean, it's obvious. And wherever it does take place, it usually incorporates some sort of financial assistance package, either from the European Union in terms of supply chain management, resilience, or other programs, or even by the German government as, programs that attract investment to the eastern states. We are seeing investment in several areas. One obviously being access to the European market. So companies who want to make sure that whatever the tariff situation is in the future, and you also might see rising tariffs in Europe for American products.
Yeah.
So companies just want to make sure they're in the market and they have a strong client base and they can deliver product throughout Europe from a base within Frankfurt. That's one of our success factors, is the efficiency with which we can either access other countries and other markets in Europe, but also the efficiency with which we can transport goods via Frankfurt Airport or via the rail system or the road system from a central base in Frankfurt to the rest of Germany and the rest of Europe. So that's one factor. The other factor that is still very strongly attracting investment, actually more than we can currently cope with, is the whole area of data centers.
Okay.
Data centers are really very, very much pushing into the market. We already are Continental Europe's strongest hub for data centers. Europe's strongest hub for data centers
that's
in the
amazing.
Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region, largely due to the fact that we have the Internet Exchange Point DKIX in Frankfurt, and the data centers want to be as close as possible to the Internet Exchange Point. If they cannot be located directly adjacent to the area where that Internet Exchange Point is based in Frankfurt, they now start spreading out more and more, still maintaining a minimum distance to the Internet Exchange Point. So we're seeing investments from all the big companies, all the big tech companies coming into the Frankfurt region. And that's not only in the millions. It's not just hundreds of millions. In some cases, it's billions of euros being invested. The strong demand has, however, also resulted in a bit of a backlash because these data centers, they use a lot of energy, they use a lot of land, and they're not really pretty to look at. So, we have this discussion in the metropolitan region. Where does it make sense to locate new data centers? Where do we get the power from? How can we incorporate the interests of the public and of the citizens where the next data center is going to be located? So these are all topics that come with additional investment pushing in. But I can say that if we had the space, if we had the energy, we could probably announce a new data center every odd month.
Wow, that's really impressive. So is that a USP of Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region, or is it all over Germany?
No, it's Frankfurt. It's because of the Internet Exchange Point, which is, I'm being told it is the largest in the world. I don't know. I think the throughput changes every month or so, so there could be others that are also very relevant. Certainly one of the largest Internet Exchange points globally.
Wow.
It's based underneath the ground in Frankfurt. It's like it's like an underground train system, but for data. Biggest exchange point. And this is so attractive for the data center companies who want to be as close as possible to this Internet Exchange Point.
Okay, so this attracts a lot of, like you say, technological companies, but I assume also other companies. What are other branches for who it could be relevant? Biochemical industry or all industries? How? Maybe you can.
Well, the name of the game is artificial intelligence. All the big names, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, sure, I've forgotten one, but they all operate through data centers.
Yes.
And they need enormous data computing capabilities. So the data centers that we already have in Frankfurt, many of them are not yet AI ready, but that's going to come. So they will drive additional investment either in refurbishments of the existing data centers, which I'm not sure if that is actually possible, or in the investment into new AI-ready data centers. So these are really the drivers. But then, so these are the companies that are directly involved with that. But you also have the suppliers. You have the engineering companies. We have engineering companies from Ireland, from other countries in the world that set up operations in our data center cluster, if you want. But you have the construction companies. You have the technical suppliers for cooling systems, for electricity. All that generates additional business. Siemens, Frankfurt is one of the strongest Siemens bases in Germany. As a matter of fact, I think it's actually the German headquarters of Siemens, based out of Frankfurt, and they do a lot of business with the data centers. Obviously, it's Siemens and data centers obviously go hand in hand. So there's a whole sector that really profits from this drive in the data center industry, besides the actual users who are financial services, AI companies, and individuals like you and me who just like to stream and upload and download from their mobile phones.
Okay, so you see within the last year an increase in this field, definitely, the way I understand you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then other branches attracted to Germany. I think you remembered last year you said biochemistry, is that correct?
Well, we still have a lot of investment going. That's actually one of the few areas where there's still investment into manufacturing. But at the moment, there's a bit of a hold on the whole discussion because Germany is also developing a reform of the health system, which has direct impact on everything with regards to life science research, pharmaceutical manufacturing, all the rest of it. So we're holding our breath at the moment a little bit to see what's going to come out of this reform and how the big pharmaceutical companies will end up reacting to it.
Okay, I see. When do you expect this to come? We don't know. This year, next year can.
Well, we had the autumn of reforms, we had the winter, and we had the spring. Now we're in the summer of reforms. It'll happen when it'll happen. It'll come when it comes.
Yeah. Eric, what would be really interesting also, you mentioned like theoretically, can you name also some companies from different areas that really now came to this area and started, and concrete cases maybe, next to what you were already saying, that AI driven due to data centers?
Sure. Well, there's quite a few companies. Many of them wouldn't ring a bell if I didn't mention the name. But just to go through a list of companies that have invested over the last period. So one would be, and I mentioned this before, how efficient it is to move product from Frankfurt to other places in Europe. Texas Instruments has invested into a new major logistics hub not far away from Frankfurt Airport.
Oh, great. I mean, Texas Instruments, definitely no.
So, Texas Instruments, they do a lot more than the old little, pocket calculators that we all used at school. It's a global tech company, and they're obviously distributing a lot of their products through Frankfurt Airport. We have one really interesting investment from an Australian company, Vulcan Energy. Vulcan Energy built a pilot plant to produce CO2 neutral lithium.
Okay.
Lithium batteries.
Yeah.
Which is being sourced here in Germany, and then it is being processed here, firstly in a pilot plant, and that pilot plant was now transferred into a commercial plant in one of the industrial parks here. So that's certainly a great investment from as far away as Australia. We have seen a number of Chinese car makers invest in distribution, marketing, and sales operations in the Frankfurt-Rhine-Main area. Pretty much all of the big names. Some of them have attached R&D facilities to their sales and marketing operations. Geely and Chery have been here for a while now. But we're also talking now about BYD, SAIC. So a number of these really sort of household names in the Chinese car industry have decided to put their European headquarters here into the Frankfurt metropolitan region. HMV is one of these data center service providers, engineering company that does business with the data centers. And only just recently we have seen the opening of the European headquarters of Doosan Robotics from Korea. The Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region already is the largest agglomeration of Korean companies in Europe.
Okay.
And this is now another addition to that, Doosan Robotics. All the big names are here, the Samsung and LG and Nexon and all these financial services, all really strongly represented already. So this is another addition to the cluster.
Okay, that would have been my next question. So the biggest investors by country are number one still Korea in Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region?
It's tough to say. In terms of pure numbers,
yeah,
probably be China
Okay.
at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
United States, unfortunately, due to, I think, the uncertainty between the markets, is a little bit slow holding back. Let's see how it develops. But Korea, Japan, and India are very strong.
Okay. And United States, right?
United States and China traditionally are the two strongest country source markets. But for this half year, the first 2 quarters, it is clearly China above the United States.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Eric, what I was wondering when we were in the United States, I was approached a couple of times, and people, even from the consulate, told me France is much more active. I know Frankfurt-Rheinmain is doing a fantastic job. You are so active globally all over the world. I know from also what you told me and what I've seen. But it seems that France and also UK attract more investments than Germany. So are they really more active, or what, in your opinion, is the reason?
Well, I'm not sure if that is really true. It always comes down to how you count. I mentioned before that China, in terms of numbers, is the strongest. But then you look at the individual projects, and you certainly have difference in quality of project, the size of the project, the capex investment, the number of new jobs that are being created. These are all factors that are not part of just counting how many projects you have in your particular region. But referring with the UK, I'm not sure, but the UK is not really a competitor because the UK is not part of the EU anymore, which I'm sure a lot of people in the UK regret. But it is just a matter of fact, and whether there's going to be any changes in the future, who knows? I doubt that will happen in my lifetime, but you never know. Never say never. With regards to France, I think you are right. France is very active, and also the political leaders are very active. I have to say, I'm seeing a change in the attitude in our political leaders in Berlin. You mentioned before that the Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region, we're quite lucky in that regard because we are a business hub, so people understand that we need to attract more business. Berlin was maybe a little bit slow. We try to incorporate federal politicians in our activities in the past. And it only started when your cookies, who originally came from Frankfurt or from the Frankfurt-Rhine-Main region, I think he's originally based out of Mainz, which is part of our region. So when he started participating and supporting our activities, and we're having some really good discussions with the federal government. But France is really active, top of the government, very active. Few things that companies need to consider: political stability. I think, especially looking at France, that is a big question mark at the moment. So it's always two sides of the coin. Making a lot of noise, making big announcements, which I'm sure France is doing really well, is one thing. Actually landing a project, we know how much work it is to end up landing a project with the proper registration and the jobs and everything. So making the announcement to the actual project is still a long way. But no doubt, France is very active. You have to consider and keep one thing in the back of your mind. Germany is a very much decentralized country. France isn't. Everything happens, everything is being decided in Paris. And if you talk to some of the regions, so I'm very close also with the region of Lyon, they often lack the support of the federal government, which tends to be a little bit Paris-centric. Frankfurt is not even the state capital. The state capital of the state of Hessen is Wiesbaden. So let alone being a federal capital. So Germany being much more decentralized is obviously in an entirely different position. If you ask someone what's the second most important city in Germany, Berlin is the capital, but what's the second most important one?
Big fight about that, huh?
It's difficult to answer. There's different hubs, there's different priorities, there's different industry clusters. So this is the typical typical comment I make when I talk about France versus Germany, and also now this has happened for over a year now. There's a lot more support from the federal side for the financial center Frankfurt as well, which for a while after the financial crisis was, less than ideal. That's really changing at the moment with the new financial center initiative coming out of Frankfurt with parts of the region. So you are right. There's a lot of competition out there, and we need to get smarter, and we probably also need to get a little bit more aggressive out there.
Okay, good to hear. You said the investments in City Frankfurt will be promoted even more than in the past. I know from other projects also that private equity is pretty strong and looking to invest in the German Mittelstand. Nachfolge topics, typical ones. Is that also what you see? Because many investors believe the next wave of AI value creation will not happen in software alone, but inside industrial companies, what you mentioned already a bit. So are you seeing growing international interest in Germany's Mittelstand, also from private equity side?
I couldn't tell you. We don't get involved. What we are seeing interest from private equity. We are seeing interest from outside of the traditional banking sector to set up operations in Germany. Have representatives in Germany to sell product in Germany. We're certainly seeing that, and we are actively promoting this as well. And also, I think a strongly and very much positively developing startup ecosystem in the Frankfurt region is attracting a lot of attention now.
I can imagine. You talked about it already last time with the startups, right? And isn't there Neura, the startup, which is a unicorn actually in Darmstadt? They just collected millions, really, of dollars, and they stay here, but the money still comes from the United States.
Oh, do you mean Focused Energy?
Robotics.
So robotics company, okay. Well, I am aware of Focused Energy, and this is certainly, is a technology that, could potentially solve a lot of problems. And they have invested they have attracted a lot of investment. So look, there are a lot of absolutely fascinating tech startups, but grown-ups out there. And the fact that we are now focusing our activities in the startup sector around what's called Futury and the so-called Bertramshöfe region in the city of Frankfurt. And when I say city of Frankfurt, it's worth mentioning that this initiative, Futury, and the new startup factory in Frankfurt is actually a coalition, a cooperation between the universities of Darmstadt, Mainz, and Frankfurt, which have traditionally been very competitive, and now cooperating to create this new startup ecosystem, startup cluster. And also the state government is focusing their investment and their support into this initiative. So I think we're going to see some really fascinating, interesting developments coming out of that. And that is attractive for a number of different areas of investment.
Yeah, I would be loved to. What would be your pitch if I was a startup from abroad? Why should I come to Germany, to Frankfurt now?
How much time have you got?
Oh, okay.
Is that the elevator pitch, is it?
Just the top 5.
No, look, I mean, one thing is absolutely clear. The access to international talent, international highly qualified people who speak English, who have international experience, well trained. I think this is one of the big draw cards, also for startups. And the next thing is obviously that this is, if you're talking to startups, this is a business hub. This is where your client base is. This is where potentially companies are that are looking to invest or even buy your company. So I think it's a market that is really business oriented, talent wise, and customer and client base wise. So for me, if I wanted to do business in Germany, I'd go to a place where it's easy to get started, where you can hit the ground running because people are used to doing business with international companies. Just remember, we have, hundreds of years of experience with our trade fairs of doing international business. So internationality combined with the talent from the universities, but also from the existing ecosystem, I think are the strong factors.
Okay, cool. So startups can contact you, Eric, when they have questions?
Well, I'm not the startup guy. I said before that the government is focusing all their activities around this future new startup factory ecosystem hub, if you want to call it. But certainly anyone can contact me, and I'll always put them in contact with the right people in the ecosystem. And that's what we do. We are, if you want the telephone number for the metropolitan region, you can call us and we will find the right contacts.
Okay, great. Eric, one of the last questions is, which is particularly interesting, defense, security and industrial transformation. Defense seems to be like going through the roof in the moment. Is that also what you perceive here in Frankfurt also, in this area?
I wouldn't call it going through the roof. There is a lot of interest.
Mm-hmm.
The bottomless funding, so to speak, is attractive for foreign companies. We still need to work on the strategy on what it is that we want from companies from outside of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt there's a strong push towards supporting the existing industry, which, in Germany for a long time, it's been really sort of really slow. Defense was always, not very attractive. That is changing. And there's a lot of support now for the existing companies that have done defense and resilience business and dual use maybe for a longer period already here in Frankfurt-Rheinmain region or in the state of Hessen or in Germany in general. We still need to define our strategy, what it is that we want from outside of the EU, from other NATO partners. That's certainly going to be one of the focus areas that we are looking at. I think there's still some work to do in that regard.
Okay, so startups, it's too early for startups who want to get started in this area. Frankfurt is not yet the right spot?
I wouldn't say that. It's just a matter of if you are a startup that's coming from outside of Germany, then we need a little bit more time. If you are a startup from Germany or even from within NATO, I don't think it's an issue. But if you're a startup that's coming from Asia or United States, well, it's NATO, but there's a lot of questions at the moment. But there are some challenges in this regard.
Okay, I see. Eric, we're coming already to the last question. I hope next year we have the time again to talk. And if we sit here again 1 year from today, what would success look like for Germany and for Frankfurt-Rhein-Main? What would you like to be able to say then that you cannot honestly say today?
I would be really, really happy if the whole mood would have changed from complaining about what needs to be done to the mood of let's implement the changes that we need to implement to address the challenges. We know what some of the solutions are. We certainly don't have all the solutions, but let's start implementing. Let's slow down the talk and let's speed up the doing part of things. I think that would really excite me.